What's up, guys? My name is David.
And I'm Manny.
And in this episode, we're going to talk about one of the most popular and interesting lizards in the pet trade.
The bearded dragon.
Okay, so the bearded dragon is one of the most rewarding lizards you could keep as a pet. These guys are very, very docile, and they're not called the lap lizard for no reason. As you can see, my guy right here, you could just put him on your shoulder, you can hang out, take him to the beach, take him to the park, and they're just gonna chill with you. So they make a really good like homework pet or like work pet where you're just gonna put him on your lap, do your work, and he's not gonna be freaking out and he's not gonna be trying to run away from you at every moment. Let's say you wanted to start off with a baby. I know a lot of you guys like to grow up your own babies and see the progression of them, and that's perfectly fine. That's what I did when I got started with bearded dragons. So what you could do is you could house them in like a 10 or 15-gallon enclosure. You want to make sure there's enough area where the animal can thermal regulate, just in case he's getting too hot under the heating lamp, under their basking spot. They could go to the cooler side. So a 15 to 20-gallon enclosure for a baby or a juvenile is perfectly fine. Now, if your animal starts to, once you got it up to full size, or you purchase an adult, you want to get like a 40-gallon to 60-gallon breeder enclosure. Obviously, you want to have the screen top, you want to have the basking spot, the UV, and that way you want to have the UV and the basking spot on one side of the enclosure. That way it could thermoregulate, like we said earlier.
Yeah, and like he was talking about, one of the most important things for keeping bearded dragons is the lighting.
Yeah.
You're gonna want to have a hot spot of 90 to 110 degrees, and you're also gonna need a 10.0 UVB bulb. We recommend the tube bulbs because they honestly work better and they actually last longer. Like I said before, 10.0, and as he was stating before about thermoregulation, you would want to put it on one side, so when it wants to bask or get hot, it goes to one side, and then once it wants to cool off, it can easily just go to the other side and cool off.
Right, and as far as substrate for these guys, you could use a couple different things. For babies, you could use, anything from paper towels to newspapers, reptile carpet, or, even tile works very good. Some people like to use, bark or sand, which is okay, but I personally don't like it because it could pick up poop a lot easier. The bacteria stays in there a lot more than they would if it's paper and you just crumble it up and throw it out. So what you want to do is, let's say how I house them. I keep them with newspaper. Every time the animal soils, I just crumble that up, throw it out, and put new newspaper in. It makes it a lot easier to keep, and you're not going to have to worry about your reptile ingesting some of this sand or bark, and possibly choking or getting an impaction problem.
Now, what would I feed these guys if I decided to keep one, And are the babies different from the adults?
You guys want to feed these guys when they're small, like babies to juveniles and even some adults. You want to feed them around 80% insect or protein and then 20% vegetables. The type of insects they could eat are very, your staple insects like the crickets, the superworms, the mealworms, the roaches are very good. Hornworms, phoenix worms, basically any kind of insect that is available in the pet trade for any reptile to consume, they could eat it. You could also give them treats like little pinky mice or fuzzy mice once they're of a bigger size. And females, especially if they're going to be breeding, it's good to give them that extra calcium, extra fat. Now the type of greens or vegetables that you could feed these guys are the collard greens, the turnip greens, romaine lettuce. Carrots are good. Every now and then you could supplement it with a little fruit like an apple, a little bit of mango or banana. They seem to like that as well. But for the most part, insects and vegetables.
And what can if I wanted to give my bearded dragon a treat, what could I offer it as a good treat?
Well, like I said, the pinky mice are good for the females, especially when they're breeding. And you know, some of the hornworms that they sell at the stores, the big green worms, those will make excellent, you know, treats. They seem to go crazy for them.
Everything likes those big green hornworms.
The staple though, make sure it's either crickets or roaches that are gut loaded, you know, so your animal gets, you know, quality healthy food, and you dust them with calcium. The calcium we like to use is the Calcium Plus from Repashy. It's, you know, like an all-in-one, so you're not going to have to buy like 3 different types of vitamin supplementation. You just have it in that one Calcium Plus. And, you know, that's what we use, that's what we've had the most success with, and it just makes it that much more simple.
And how do I give these guys water? Do I simply, like, for the blue tongues, I put a bowl of water in there for them.
Right.
How would I do for bearded dragons?
So yeah, that's a good question. Bearded dragons are desert type animals. They don't require as much water as, you know, like a crested gecko or a frog or any type of rainforest animal. So there's a couple different ways of going about this. If you can provide a water bowl and you're able to clean that out and change it every other day or so, then by all means do that. So the dragon has, you know, the option to go and drink water when it wants to. But if you, let's say you don't have as much time to be cleaning a water bowl every day, what you could do is, for the babies, you could give them a soak once a week, like a 15-20 minute soak. Just leave them in the water. The water you want to make sure is like room temperature, not too warm, not too hot. And along, you know, aside from soaking them once a week, you want to give them a good misting once a week, just so they stay hydrated. Babies are a lot more delicate than adults, so you just want to make sure they're hydrated and they're not gonna, you know, dehydrate and possibly die. For adult bearded dragon like this guy, you could give him a shower, not a shower, you could give him a bath once a month and he'll be fine. They get most of their water through their vegetables or the insects they eat, so you don't have to worry if you don't see your, you know, bearded dragon drinking water every day, because like I said, they, in the desert, in the wild, these guys get their water from either the plants they eat or the insects that they eat. So when you're setting up the enclosure for your bearded dragon, like we said earlier, you want to have the hot side and the cool side. The hot side at 90 degrees to 110 degrees, and then the cool side is going to be an ambient temperature of around 80 degrees. If you have, let's say in your enclosure, what you could set it up by is you could have a nice branch where it could perch. So if your dragon feels like it needs to, you know, get a little hotter to digest its food, it could climb higher in the branch. If she wants to, you know, if she wants to cool off, they could go off to the other side of the enclosure. One thing I like to do is provide some sort of rock, or like a smooth or flat rock. That way it absorbs some of the heat from the heat lamp, and it'll give them a good digestion heat. So after they eat, you know, they're going to be able to digest their food, because, you know, these guys, if they're cold, they're not going to be digesting their food, and you're going to get a lot of problems with impaction and things like that.
Talking about rocks, should I use a heat rock, you know, that they have like a Petco or PetSmart?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I really don't recommend those things. A lot of times what they do is they could burn the underbelly of the bearded dragons and some of the other, you know, reptiles like tegus. I know there's a lot of animals that for some reason they don't understand how bad it's burning them, and they'll just sit there, and it can do a lot of damage in the long run. So I would just go with a, you know, normal flat rock, and she's going crazy. She's camera shy, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a normal flat rock, and let it absorb the heat from the heat lamp, and that should be fine. If they feel like they need to digest, they're gonna sit right on top of that.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We definitely enjoyed making this video. And you know, if you want to keep up to date on our progress with the bearded dragons and other animals that we have here, make sure you follow us on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, and make sure you hit the subscribe button down below so you can follow our progress with the bearded dragons and many other amazing animals of the world that we have here.
Right, guys, so like he said, if you have any questions as well, you know, we are always happy to help you guys. Thanks for watching, and until next time, you've been watching TikisGeckos.